Meow.
Hey guys, how's it going? So I wanted to take some time today and do a little update video on the video I did last week, which was about aphantasia. So if you watched that, you learned a lot, I hope. If you hadn't heard about it, you certainly did learn a lot. So aphantasia, just for those who don't know, is the inability to picture something in your mind's eye. Okay, so yeah, I did a video explaining an experiment I had done with a family member of mine who had aphantasia her whole life and is now not as aphantasic, if that's how you would say it. So thanks for the great response. A lot of views on that video. A lot of people contacting me or commenting about how they, appreciated the information. For some, it was very illuminating because they were like, "Oh, that's totally me." So that was pretty cool. Also, a couple people who wanted sessions to work on their aphantasia, so that's great. I'm super stoked about that. Yeah, so my goal for this video is just to give you a little update on the person that I did my first week of sessions with. I'm not going to reveal her name, so just to keep her anonymity intact, but let's just call her Jill. So I'll give you an update on Jill, but then first I'd like to provide a little bit more information or clarification, more like, on aphantasia itself. So what are we even talking about? Because when we're talking about stuff that everybody only experiences for the most part in their mind or it's first person experience, it's kind of hard to pin down what we're all talking about. So I got a little slideshow that I got prepared for you guys. So let's jump in. All right, so let's talk about this aphantasia thing a little more in depth. Now, when I ask somebody to close their eyes and imagine something, whatever it is, typically what you'll have happen is a mind's eye will open up, and it feels like it's kind of in the cranium or in the head, in the back of the head. And what will happen is they'll start to have vague images form there. So if I ask them to, imagine an apple, this is just any random apple, as you can see. But if they go to imagine an apple, that's what they're experiencing. They're experiencing this screen in their mind, kind of in their head, that opens up and they can see an image. Quote unquote, see an image. I mean, it's not exactly seeing, but we'll talk about that. So they can see this apple here in the head. Okay, that's for most people. Okay, so here's where the confusion is. So if I ask somebody to close their eyes, this is pretty much everybody now, and you close your eyes, what you're going to see is a black sort of screen in front of you. Now, this isn't seeing in your head like we just talked about. This is seeing actually with your natural eyes. You're going to see a black screen in front of you, which is literally your eyelids. And if you look, if you glance towards a light or something like that, or an open window with light coming in, you'll notice it kind of goes a little bit red. That's because the light is coming through your eyelids and making it look a little bit more red. So the confusion comes in when people are talking about aphantasia, in that we're not talking about closing your eyes, seeing that black screen, being asked to imagine an apple, and then seeing an apple literally come onto the black screen of your eyelids. We'll call that the screen of the eyes. Okay, so that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about seeing in that sense where the images are actually forming in front of your eyeballs. Okay, what we're trying to discuss when we're talking about aphantasia is the sensory experience of being able to sense visual information back here in the mind's eye. Okay, very different experience. So people with aphantasia, if they were asked to picture an apple, that mind's eye would just remain blank. Or even for some, it feels like there's just nothing that shows. They don't even have a mind's eye. And the more I research about aphantasia and what people are talking about it right now, the more I realize, actually, some people don't even experience visual. They don't experience sensory, like feeling wise. They can't hear anything in their imagination, nothing like that. So there's varying degrees of how this aphantasia thing works within people too. So now I want to clarify something a little bit farther. I hope that clears up the questions like, do I have aphantasia? I'm not seeing anything on my eyes. But if you can imagine something in the back of your head, then no, you don't have aphantasia. You might have it in certain senses, but not, as the classic example, not visually. So let's go into another thing here. So when we have our eyes open, that is obviously our field of view. And if I asked you to put on a percentage scale of how much you can see with your eyes, 0% being I can't see at all with them, which would be somebody who's, if you have a mask on or something like that, then that would be 0. But of course, if you open your eyes, then that would be something around 100%, right? Unless you had some sunglasses on or something was obstructing your view. Okay, so when we're imagining things in the mind's eye, like let's say I ask the person to close their eyes and imagine a beach. Okay. Now you're imagining this beach, and there's a certain percentage as to how much you can experience that beach firsthand. So what I mean is, are you like if I were to ask you the question, how much percent on a scale of 0 to 100 are you experiencing that beach right now? Are you seeing it? Are you feeling it? Are you hearing the waves? Is it 10%? Could be. Some people have more vivid imaginations where it may be 25%. And then some people even experience greater imagination capability where they could, go farther than 25%, farther than 50% even. And sometimes even for me, it goes up towards 75, 100% as well, where I'm fully experiencing what I'm imagining in my head. Of course, but here still typically I'm only seeing that black screen. But here's a little teaser, and we'll talk about this more in future videos. But as a tease, so we're talking about that black screen of the eyes, right? Now, I've worked extensively at this. I've heard other people who could do this as well, but this isn't something that came naturally to me. But now, if someone were to say, hey, Alec, imagine that beach. I would start to see it back here just like normal first. But what I can do now, and what people I don't think readily know, is that those images can start to come to the front, onto that black screen of the eyes, and actually be able to be seen and viewed through your natural eyes, where it feels like you're physically looking at something now with your eyes closed. So that's been a lot of fun. That's really all I'm going to say about that for right now. I even read a blog. The reason I wanted to address that is because I read a blog entry by a guy, Aphantasia, who works at Facebook or something like that, and he said, everybody can see in the mind's eye, but then nobody can see with their eyes closed on the black screen of their eyelids. And it's not his fault. He just didn't know that people actually can. So yeah, little teaser for next time. So now let's jump back and I'll give you the update on Jill. All right, hope you enjoyed that slideshow. Hope it was illuminating for you guys to really conceptualize what aphantasia really is, or whether or not you have it. So yeah, so update on Jill. So it's a week after we finished our last session, and this is what we talked about. So no major changes have happened to her so far in her overcoming aphantasia experience. One thing she did describe that was new for her was she went to sleep one night and she closed her eyes and she was laying in bed and she started to just see movement. It was kind of hard for her to describe, but that's what she was experiencing, was movement. And I can kind of relate. I've had different experiences like that. But that was a first. So that's pretty cool. It definitely tells us that her brain is still operating differently. She's still actually retained the ability that we left off with, where I was able to ask her to imagine an object or something like that, and she was able to see that pretty clearly. Still pretty vague, but way more than never being able to, of course. And then we did something really fun. So I asked her to imagine herself sitting on a beach and try to feel the sand, try to feel the heat of the sun, try to see the waves in the water. And when she did this, she could actually see and experience aspects of it. So she was able to see the waves rolling in. She was able to see or feel the coarseness and the heat coming off the sand. And she was actually pulling off of a recent memory of a time she was actually at the beach. So that might have actually helped the facilitation of the image come fully into her imagination. And when I asked her to put that on a scale from 0% to 100%, 100% being I'm fully there, I'm experiencing it first person, 0% being I'm not experiencing it at all, she said she was at about a 10% experience, which is pretty dang awesome considering that, 2.5 weeks ago, she had never even had a picture in her mind appear ever. So I have a hypothesis from here. What I'm thinking will happen with Jill is I'm thinking it will grow. I'm hoping as well, but I'm thinking that what we've established now, that her brain is now processing a little bit differently, will continue to develop just on its own naturally as she dreams, as she speaks to people, as she thinks about something. She might have an image come in her head. So that's my hypothesis at this point, that the neurons that we've kind of established the connection so far will continue to grow. We'll see, though. The next time we agreed to check in with this topic is in July. So that'll be a couple months out, and it'll be really fun to talk to her and see where everything's at for her at that point. So yeah, that'll about do it for this video. I hope it was illuminating. I hope it brought some clarification and fun to hear about how Jill is doing. I also wanted to mention that somebody reached out to me and wanted to figure out if they had aphantasia or not. We figured out that they didn't. So on a phone call, we discussed it. But this person still wanted to remember dreams better. And that's actually something that I've gone after a lot in my life too, is experiencing dreams more clearly, being able to remember them after I wake up and stuff like that. So I'm going to be holding sessions with her coming up pretty soon, so that'll be pretty fun. But also, if you guys do have aphantasia or know somebody with it, I would love if you got in contact with me and tag them in the post or something like that, just so we can chat and figure out if that's something that they would want to go after. I can point them in direction of some resources, or even if they'd want to do some sessions, I'm making myself available to do that for people as well. I just love the idea of helping people open that up. It's pretty something that I've been wanting to do for years, and now finally feel I have some good ground to go that way on. So anyways, hope you enjoyed, and have fun imagining. See ya.